Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second podcast. Today we have Dillan Taylor. Dylan, for those who don't know, he is a master insight coach and also the person who introduced me to life coaching, someone who's also my personal life coach and mentor and has been an integral part of my journey as a coach for a few years now. So I'm just super excited to have him here. Um, and I have so many things that I could delve into. Welcome, Dylan.
Yeah, great to be here. Thank you. For anyone listening, in case we don't get to it in this conversation, a friend and your coworker introduced us because you were at work and you said that you were interested in two things, one being life coaching and the other being podcasting. And that was almost 3 years ago. And I said, "Oh, cool. I think I could help you with one or both of those things." And so now to see you be a professional coach and now for me to be a guest on your podcast, it's cool to come full circle.
Absolutely. Wow, it's insane how much my life has changed, especially since we were introduced, and I had no idea what life coaching was um, until I met you, and you were like, let me offer you a session. Let's just give this a shot. Like I would love to. And we had some insane calls and insane coaching sessions, which transformed my life, I guess. Even the first few sessions, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, I was having so many insights and realizations about what I want in my life and what direction I'm going towards. And as opposed to where I am right now, which was not at all where I wanted to be. So I've said this so many times to you, but I'm so grateful to have met you. And we end up working from then on together for the last 2 years, and we just renewed our contract. We're doing another year of coaching, you coaching me. And man, there's so much to get into. I'm so excited.
Me too. Me too. Happy to be here. Like I said.
Yeah, I guess my first question for you is I know you also were not a life coach to begin with. You were in sales. I remember you mentioning something about being a door-to-door salesman, and that was sometime in 2020. Tell us about the story. What got you to become a life coach?
Yeah, I didn't start out being a life coach. I wasn't born. Didn't come out of the womb asking people questions and reflecting back their answers. But I started right before the pandemic. I started a door-to-door sales job for a home remodeling company because I thought it was time to get a big boy job. I had only worked in restaurants prior to that and all love to the restaurant industry, but it doesn't really lend itself toward a ton of wealthy career trajectory
Mm.
for the most part, waiting tables. And I started doing door-to-door sales. I was interested in entrepreneurship for years, read a bunch of business books, listened to Gary Vaynerchuk for years, and I didn't do anything about it. I was as they say, I was a wantrepreneur, not an entrepreneur, but I was a wantrepreneur. I was the guy who was giving his waiter friends advice on building a business, and meanwhile, I had done absolutely zero things to sell a product, put a service together, try to run any sort of actual business that makes money. And anyway, did the door-to-door sales gig, absolutely hated it, hated every second of it. It is the hardest. It is to this day, I believe that it is, aside from demanding physical labor, it's one of the hardest jobs in the world. Cold, knocking on people's doors, going up to them at grocery stores. Like I get uncomfortable just talking about it because these are the people that you know these people. Like they have the name tag or the paper the what's it called? The clipboard, and they're coming up to you and you're like, "Oh my God, please leave me alone." Or like let me pretend like I don't see them or I have my headphones in. We just want these people to go away, and for the life of them, they have to try to get you to sign up for something or to sell something. These are profitable companies. So I did not do it very well. I was not good at it. I dreaded it. I made it like 2 months and then the pandemic hit and I knew I had to quit because I was so thrilled when COVID hit and we weren't going back to work. And I was like, oh, thank God. That is great news. I was so excited that there was a global pandemic and a bunch of people were sick and dying. And so I was like, okay, that's not good. Probably shouldn't feel that way. Like that's not a good feeling to have in response to that. So I was like, all right, I can't go back. So I had, I think, 2 months of unemployment, furlough, and I just spent that time trying to teach myself how to do anything that I could sell online. And I found, I think copywriting was the main thing that piqued my interest. And I helped people put websites together and put copy together. And it's kind of a boring story, but eventually I found myself into a mastermind group of a friend. And there was a life coach there, like a grown woman life coach. It was the first time I met a life coach. And my only experience with life coaching was Tony Robbins. And just like, I thought Tony Robbins, scam, rah rah, cheerleader, something to pump you up or teach you about life. And she was like, no, it's not about that. She thought I should give it a shot, and I was like, okay, I'll. I was curious, and I just started reaching out to my friends for free. I was like, hey, I'm thinking about coaching. Can I coach you for free? A bunch of my friends said yes. I started coaching a bunch of my friends, and I really liked it. I liked it kind of immediately, and I think I realized that I liked it in the second session I did with a friend, where she had taken action on the things that we talked about from the first session that we did. And she was like, Dill, I did the things and it was fine. And I think her thing was like saying no to certain people, to free up her time, something simple. And she was like, Dill, I said no to 3 people. And it was so tough. And I'm so proud of myself. Like I saw change. And I think that was the moment. I was like, whoa, just from having conversations, there's nothing complex. I didn't have her fill out a bunch of sheets or exercises or, she didn't have homework really. We just had a conversation. And then she comes back after the conversation and now she's living her life differently. I was like, okay, this is cool. This is great. And I was like, all right, I think this is what I want to, I know I want to get really good at something and build a career out of something and make a lot of money. I was like, yeah, I think this is it. I think this is what I'm gonna try to do. So kept coaching my friends. Eventually, a few of them offered to start paying money because they were getting value out of it. Started charging a little bit. Started putting packages together. Thought I was the man. I'm a born entrepreneur. Not true. Absolutely not true. And then eventually I got a message from the head of the Insight Coaching community, John Strasser, which is the community that I invited you to. And uh, that was when I made the decision. I was like, okay, I think this guy looks legit. I think I really need some help and some actual training. I need to know how to be an entrepreneur and how to run a professional business and get organized. So when I joined the ICC, that's when I burned the boats. I stopped taking any sort of copywriting clients, and I just was like, this is it. It's succeed at this or die or fail or get evicted. There was no other option. And it was a hectic several months that year, but I would say about 7 months in, I got it to be a kind of cruising altitudes, like 6-figure range.
Wow.
And then since then, yeah, since then it's been my full-time gig and it's given me the freedom and the resources to do other projects. And now I have since about a year ago, I started my own coaching company where we help content creators. We coach content creators and help them go full time with their content online. So that's the rough trajectory as to how I've entered the world of coaching.
Wow. Uh, that was amazing. From a sales job that you hated, people shutting doors on your face, like go away, to being unemployed in the middle of the pandemic. And you said doing some other kind of job, building websites, and hearing about life coaching, coaching a couple of people, and like, okay, this is valuable, to now, then you got trained, you got certified, you got really good, you made 6 figures as a coach in this business, and you still are. and you're also starting your second company where you coach content creators. Wow, that's an insane journey, and all this in just 4 years of your life, right? The last 4 years
Yeah, I
onward.
guess it would be, yeah, 4 years. 4 years, correct.
This is really inspiring for me and for many aspiring coaches or anyone else, I guess, who's in a place where they don't really love what they do and they're looking for maybe a career change. I'm curious for those who relate to that, those who feel like, I don't know if I want to do this job. I don't know if I want to do this forever. There might be something else that I may want to do. What would you tell them?
I would share my story, and I would absolutely give them zero suggestions as to what I think they should do for themselves. Because for me, I think you have to assess how risk tolerant you are. I think that's the number one factor, because there are people who, like, I'm very risk tolerant. I am much more willing to experience the deep anxiety of uncertainty of, oh my God, I have to make money. I have to figure out how to, like, I wouldn't say I thrive in that, but like I can handle it. It's horrible, but I can handle that. And I know people who would have to check themselves into the hospital if they had to experience anything like that. So it's like, okay, they need a more conservative approach. So I just interviewed Michelle Varghese. She's the community manager of Small Bets, which is an entrepreneur community, and she helps people take sabbaticals. So long term, just chill or just focus on personal projects. And she broke it down into three things, which is one, your finances, right? Um, two, your risk tolerance, and I would combine those two. And the third is like, what's your goal? What's the main goal here? Um, I think a lot of people, well, let's go through those in order. So first of all, your finances. If you didn't make any money, like, you should know how many months would you have until you literally had to do something about it. You have to apply to another job, you have to take on freelance work, you have to, I don't know, get a loan or ask to borrow money. Like, there's a hierarchy of things where it's like, oh, like, okay, first option, if I had to, I'd probably get another job. Or I'm just hypothetically making this up, but it's like, um, assuming that the final option is like, I move in with my parents, and there is some sort of hierarchy of things that you could do, um, at your rock bottom, so to speak. And the idea is you want to have that list not be that bad, right? We'll get into this, but I mean, I hope I can share. You quit your job at Microsoft, and it's like, all right, if worst case scenario, I don't think this is going to happen, but if worst case scenario, it's just like nothing works, you have no money for ever coaching, like it's just zero things work. Again, very unlikely, but let's say that happens. It's like, could you move somewhere? Could you get another job? It's like, if you have those options available, it's very different, the decisions that you would make if you had no options. Um, I knew it would have been the equivalent of death to me, but I could have just gotten another restaurant job. Like, I could have swallowed my pride, swallowed my ego, and just like, wow, I have no money for rent this month. Let me go back to, 4 blocks away to the Cheesecake Factory and just go wait tables or ask to work on weekends. Like, I had that option. Your question was, to someone who doesn't really know if they like what they're doing and they want to maybe do something else. First, it's like, how long could you last without making any money? Two, if you need to make money like this month, what's your hierarchy of options available? Um, or those two are part of the first one. And the second is, how risk tolerant are you? Right? I can get a lot done when I have absolutely no choice.
Yeah.
Right? And like I said earlier, I know people who can't get anything done if their back is against the wall. But I do. I'm like, well, what else? Like, I will work 12 hours a day. I have no choice. What am I going to do? Get evicted? I have to make this work. And that's exactly how I approached coaching. I treated it immediately. I was like, this is my full-time job. This is my full-time job. this is the number one priority. I don't care about anything else. This is the only thing. And then the third is, what's your goal? And I think particularly in the coaching space, the self-improvement space, it can kind of sound good to like have a beautiful why, or you talk about this, and it's not wrong, but I hear a lot of coaches talk about service. Like I want to serve. I'm here to serve. I didn't have any of that. My goal was, don't get evicted from your apartment. Like, learn to make money, learn to get good at this. This is what you want to do. Um, and I think Chris Williamson talks about this in Modern Wisdom, his podcast, where you just have to use what you got at first. And if all you have at first is fear, it's like, great, use it.
Yeah.
Like, don't talk yourself out of it. You don't have to like hack your brain into be like, no, I have to have only positive feelings about why I'm pursuing. It's like, not wanting to be broke is enough. That's completely justifiable. Now, the hope is that once you start to take off and achieve success, like, that's not the only thing that fuels you for the rest of your career. Eventually, there should be some sort of mission or some sort of North Star that you have, a lot more long-term, sustainable, hopefully positive things. But in the beginning, what's your goal? And the goal can just be, I hate having no money and I hate being good at nothing. That
Yep.
was it for me. I was like, I'm only good at waiting tables. Like, I would like more than that for myself, and I'm sick of having no money. That was it. So that's what I would say to
Yeah.
answer your question. What's your money situation? How tolerant to risk are you? And what are you really doing this for? Like, what are you actually hoping to get out of this? What's your goal? Those three.
Love it. As I hear you say that, I had another thing come up to my mind, which is, how badly do you want this or not want this? For example, how much do you hate the current situation or current job, whether it's finances or the work you do, and how much do you want to do this other thing, and how badly do you want maybe the outcome of that is, um, and what's the cost also of not changing a thing and just doing and being where you are for several years, maybe for the rest of your life? Or are you like, no way am I gonna do that, I have to change something? And I guess for me it was that I have to change something, and I had no idea what is the right career, what is the right thing for me to do. This was just something I was intrigued by in the beginning, and I experienced the power of it, the possibilities of coaching. And then I'm like, yeah, maybe I want to give it a shot, given that I'm just so interested, intrigued, and just feeling pulled towards doing this. There's no harm in trying. The worst case scenario is literally I realize this is not for me and I move on to something else. Uh, and I remember that being like a very important point in my life where I'm never gonna know until I give it a shot. There is no way that I can be like, let's try to make a decision for my career or my life that would be perfect, would last then in my entire life, and would have some kind of a guarantee. Doesn't exist. There is some risk. I mean, you obviously are testing waters at some point, but you have to take some kind of a risk as well. Like, if you really want to see it through, you got to take a risk. Like, going for it, starting your business, quitting your job, whatever that is for you.
And I think one of the themes here, and I guess a point I'll try to double down on, is focusing on running toward a positive versus running away from a negative.
Yeah.
And just another way of articulating what I was sharing is, it actually can be so much more effective to run away from the negative. Like, Jordan Peterson talks about this experiment where they had they had rats in a cage, and they wanted to test and see how much force they would use to pull or move from one side or the other. And they had the rat's favorite food, like some cheese or whatever, and they pulled pretty hard because they wanted the cheese. And then they did the exact same thing, but instead of having them go toward food that they wanted, they had the smell of a cat on the other side, so they could smell the cat, and the force that they used
Yeah.
to move to the other side and try to escape was so much stronger. And the idea, or one of the sort of conceptual takeaways, is you not only need something that you are running toward, but something very powerful that you are running away from or trying to avoid. And you reflected back on my job, like it wasn't even a decision for me because I hated it. I dreaded it. I dreaded those days where I had to go to work on something that I hated, and it took all my time away. I had to do 6 days a week because I sucked at the job, so I had to hit my numbers. I needed extra days of work to hit my numbers.
Yeah.
I would get home and I would just go right to sleep. Sometimes I would fall asleep in my clothes, like my work clothes, because I wouldn't recall falling asleep. And anyway, I think when you're pursuing something, one of the things that I've seen as one of the biggest obstacles in people, coaches, but other pursuing entrepreneurs, is that their life is too good. Their life is fine. They don't need this business to take off anytime soon.
Hmm.
And so it's just, they're just not as starving. And I certainly don't think you need starvation to
Yeah.
be fiery, but oh man, does it help? Does it really, really, really help? And who's more incentivized to reach out to 100 people this week? The person who needs to make rent this month with his or her coaching business, or the person who, just maybe in the next couple of years might try to build a coaching business? It's like,
Yeah.
it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy. And I was, spoiler alert, I was the former. I think it was that in 2021, I think it was June. I remember it was in the summer. I had no money and I had to pay rent by the end of the month. And I was like, I had no sales calls on my calendar. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to pay my rent. And it was like a one and done. Like if you're late once on your rent, like they take you to court. It was, yeah, a whole thing. And so powerful motivators. I did not procrastinate reaching out to people because I had no choice. My life depended on it. And
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, I'm just repeating kind of the same stuff over and over again. But when your life depends on it, much easier to take action.
Yep. You're sitting on fire, like there's fire underneath you. You have to get up, do something, go for it. That was your biggest motivator. Um, Love it. And I want to talk about actually something more basic. I think this is something I get asked a lot by people. What is life coaching? What would you say to that?
It's just helping people do what they want to do.
Okay.
That's really
And
it.
who is it for? Is there another question I get asked? Who should hire a life coach?
I think most people, if not everybody, should hire a life coach. Just like most people, should work out regularly. Most people should, do all sorts of healthy practices. I think it's just it's for anybody who believes that they can achieve more with the help of another person. That's and I'm being very short with my answers on purpose because the more you try to explain life coaching, the more it sounds like some sort of
Yeah.
hypnosis pyramid scheme, and I'm lucky. Like I've never been religious. I've never been spiritual in sort of a mystic sense. So for me, I said I'm lucky because it's just been very easy for me to explain things
Hmm.
in business terms. It's like, this is what this is. This is the service. You and I sit down, and we figure out, what do you really want, what you think is in the way, and then we just take care of it so that you can just move directly to whatever it is that you really want for yourself. There's nothing more than that. That's it. It's just, what do you want? What's in the way? Okay, great.
Yeah.
What are you going to change? And I think that's what I mentioned, what I liked in that second call with my friend early on. It's change. I think that, in a not so cheesy sense, that's really the answer. You're paying for change. You're kind of investing in change in yourself. Like, the whole point of a coaching session, at least in my eyes, or the way that I would run a coaching session, is, again, we dive into, okay, what do you want? What's in the way? And then you leave with your insights, your takeaways from that conversation, but always leaving with your action items, right? Some people call it homework, but
Yeah.
like, what are you going to do about this? And I think therapy is excellent. I have a therapist. I have a coach as well, and I think there are, yeah, they're just different tools. And for me, coaching is like the action tool, the change tool, and therapy is sort of the, I guess, from, at least for me, it's more of a release and potentially clarity tool.
Mm.
Um, but I also, I mean, I come from a coaching background, so I definitely approach my therapy sessions as like, all right, and here's what I'm going to change about this. All right, what's my new emotional system that I'm going to build? And Kevin, my therapist, is just like, Dylan, we don't have to have a system for it. I'm like, shut up, Kevin. Yes, we do. Here's my system. I already got it. It's in 3 steps. Uh, but it's just change. And to answer your other question of who's it for, it's certainly not for people who are just resistant to change, right? And at this point in my career, like, I'll have gifted sessions, or maybe someone will refer someone to me, and I'm like fighting this person to change. And it's I don't laugh at them, I don't make fun of them, but this is what so many humans do. They will say, I'm unhappy with the way things are and the results that I'm getting, therefore something needs to change and I need to change.
Yeah.
And then they have a session with me, for example, and I say, great, let's change. And then they go, whoa, 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 easy. Let's 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 not get crazy. I can't just change, because that's scary. And yeah, I think at the heart of everything, we're just terrified to change, because regardless of how advanced and modern our society is, how good our technology is, we have the brains of 100,000-year-old primates, and we're just wired to detect threats constantly. So that's why, we have literally all of our needs met. You can have $100,000 in the bank. You could have wonderful people around you, and you could still be depressed. Like, our
Mm.
brains are wired to focus on what's wrong, like what is unsatisfying, like what don't we have. And anyway, that's a different conversation, but like, we're just constantly trying to protect ourselves, I think. And we don't, it's kind of counterintuitive, because therefore we make decisions and tell ourselves stories that keep us very locked up, and even more, miserable than we think we would be if we just did something scary. But uh, coaching is change, and it's for people who desire change and are willing to change. That's what I would say.
Wow. Yes. Someone who is open to change, desires change. Another thing maybe I would add to that is willing to be challenged in their ways of thinking. Because if you say that, or anyone says, I want this in my life, and I know that something has to change, and then if there's some kind of a story or fear, like, oh no, I'm just not a kind of a person who does this sort of a thing, or I could never do that, or I don't know, millions of different stories people tell themselves. If we can, we as coaches will challenge them on that thought. And I think the important thing is, are you willing to be challenged on your ways of thinking? Are you willing to be wrong about something that you thought was true, and you were like completely wrong, and you are open to the idea of being wrong? I think that's something that's in my experience also like really important, because if people don't like to be challenged, coaching is not for them. What do you think?
Yeah, well, totally. But also, one thing I've been doing lately is just agreeing with people. Like, just agree. They stop in their tracks because I think they're preparing for some sort of back and forth, or maybe some people are almost expecting to be challenged. But if someone's just like, yeah, I mean, I, I just can't. I just don't think I can build a successful coaching business because I'm not a natural business person. And in the past, yeah, I would go heavy and just challenge that story. And now the first thing I say is like, yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I don't think you'll ever be successful because you need to be a natural business person. Like I think you're right. I don't think you will ever make it.
Yeah.
And they're just like, "Oh, well, no, I mean, and then the desire is to just push back. They're like, well, no, I mean, I think that's a little harsh. It's like, right. Yeah. Um, I think in my experience as a coach and as a person who's been coached many times, no matter how wise we think we are, no matter how much worldly experience we have, like I think we're all just full of it. Like we're all just really wrong about things that we think we're very right about all the time. I don't think we genuinely see reality correctly, both in ourselves, in our abilities, in what we are capable of, and what is actually possible for us to accomplish or to change in a very short amount of time. Right? Maybe not this week, but like actually, yeah, I think even this week. Like I think that's one thing that you and I have probably both experienced in the beauty of coaching. After one conversation, a person is just like, wait, I can just do this thing that I've
Yeah.
convinced myself I can't do for years. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
give it a shot. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, we're all full of crap. Me, including myself. Including myself. We're so wrong about most things. And whenever I think like, I'll get a little cocky and think like, okay, I've been a coach, like I've been around the block. Like you know, I think I've learned everything that there is to learn about myself and about life. And then I get hit by a truck of humility. I'm just like, oh yeah, you're completely wrong.
Yeah.
Totally wrong. Um,
Right.
just recently, I would say most recently, I just went through a breakup. It's been really hard. And right away, it was just like, oh yeah, okay. Like you are just another human being who can be very clueless, very lonely, very lost, who needs a lot of help. I think over the years I've experienced, being some head honcho coach who I'm very confident and I love my abilities as a coach. I feel insanely competent and confident.
I can vouch for that. Dylan is the most powerful coach I've ever experienced coaching with.
Thank you. But over time, my ego would trick me into thinking like, okay, then you're untouchable. You stay in this zone and you're very, very confident. Uh, and then over here, something will happen. You're like, oh, it sounds very arrogant, but sometimes I just forget that I am yet just another human being. Maybe there are certain things about me that allow me to stand out or that I am above average in, but I'm I'm just a human being. I'm insecure. I get lonely. I say stupid things. I have regrets. Like, I don't remember why I went down this train, but it's it's where we are right now, Rachana.
Yeah. Yeah. And the very fact that we coaches have coaches, right? I have a coach, you have a coach. We're all humans. We need the same kind of support. We are also full of crap. We tell stories, we have fears, and we're working on them. Um,
Yeah. My
that is,
coach is just me in the mirror. But I guess most people have other coaches. But no, I just sit with a notebook and I look at myself in the mirror and then I just coach myself through things and the
you
insight that
do.
I get. No, I'm
No, you
joking.
don't. I was not sure if you were joking there. I'm glad you said that.
You were nodding your head and I was like, oh, she believe okay. Like what I was like, what does she think? think of me.
I'm like,
Interesting.
wait, is that a thing? Is there something, some kind of an alternate self-coaching thing that I don't know about? Anyway, um, this is great. And I think the last question I want to ask you before we wrap up this conversation is what is possible with coaching? And maybe you can share, if you're open to it, anonymously, examples of people you have worked with and what has been some incredible results you've seen, like what that has come through coaching.
Well, I've seen you go from an incredibly, I would say, I'll say,
Okay.
confused, kind of lost person with all these interests, with a lot of awareness that, okay, you are capable of much more. And now you are, I mean, even within the Insight coaching community, like you are easily one of the best coaches to ever go through it. People look to you as sort of an example of how to coach powerfully. You've learned a tremendous amount in a very short amount of time. Uh, I did a session today. I got crazy news from a client today. He's my oldest client. He's 63, and he had a fight with his boss at work, and then he decided he's like, "Yeah, I'm retired now." He quit, and he's retired. And so
Wow.
now we're stepping into an entirely new season. He was in government. He's an engineer, some top secret stuff. So I don't exactly know what he does. He's not allowed to tell me, but um, he's an engineer, and now he really wants to work with AI and start his own surveying business where he like takes drones and surveys lands and sort of like designs his own metaverse of them. He's insane. He's way smarter than I am. And yet another example that, you can coach whoever, all different shapes and sizes and ages. Um, I've been working with a few very close friends of mine for now years. Um, one of the one of my clients, we started working together when he had around 2,000 YouTube subscribers. Now he's almost at 400,000. And a few months ago, he quit his job to be a full-time content creator. He's like one of the big inspirations as to why we started Grindstone, to just like help uh, people do that exact same thing.
Yeah.
I coach a guy who runs a design studio, and another guy who isn't, yeah, a software engineer. Your question was, what was the question?
What have been some transformations or crazy
Mm.
results and what's possible with coaching just for
Oh,
people to
what's
think,
possible?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay, what's possible? Yeah, I think it's so cheesy, and this is, I think, what makes it sound so scammy. It's really just up. I the more I do this, the more simple it seems to me. Where
yeah,
it's just simply giving people permission to do what they already want to do, and the permission comes in the form of having an excellent coach and being asked insanely good questions, being shown who they really are, being exposed and called out and challenged, but also like paying a high fee. And again, that's what makes it sound very salesy. And I thought it sounded scammy when I first heard it years ago. But like, why do people show up to personal training sessions? It's because they pay for them, and there is a human being waiting for them to show up and do a thing that they've been wanting to do for a while, which is get fitter, exercise more regularly. Like, who's more likely to go to the gym? Someone who's paying for a personal trainer, waiting for them there at the gym at a certain time and day, or someone who just feels like they should work out more. It's it's you basically outsource a lot of willpower when you work with a coach, because you're
yeah.
like, all right, I'm invested. Here it is. It's the ultimate sign of commitment. And we it comes from they did research in the, what was it, the Association for Talent, where they had all these percentages, and it was like, if you think of a goal, you're this much, like it's like 20% likely to accomplish the thing. If you pick the day and time that you're going to do it, okay, you're a little bit more likely to do it. If you tell someone about it, you're more likely to do it. And the highest on the list was if you tell another human being the day and time that you're going to do it, and then you have to check back in with that same person at a scheduled call tell them about the thing that you did, you're 96% likely to actually do the thing. And I see this in my practice all the time. People will tell me that that morning or the day before they were like, oh, I didn't want Dillan to, I didn't want to be in trouble with Dillan, so I had to do X, Y, or Z thing that I said I was going to do. So it, what's possible is just like you actually do the things that you want to do. It's just that simple. And you go from, end of year, like, yeah, I think I'll do this by the end of the year, to end of week. It's like, yeah, you have a session next week, so do it now. We're very good at finding reasons to not do something or to wait until later to do something. And yeah, you hire a coach who basically basically just forces you to be the person that you want to be.
Yeah.
It's
That's
that
something
simple. It's not easy, but it is that simple.
100%. One thing I want to clarify for those not familiar with the inside coaching way of coaching is that we don't tell you what to do. We don't give you advice or suggestions or tell you or give you homework like do this before next week. It's not that. It's literally coming from a place of curiosity, like you said, asking amazing, powerful questions, taking people deep, and helping them access their own ideas, their own insights. And this is what we both learned from ICC, Inside Coaching Community. This is what we've learned, and it's just the most powerful coaching experience, both to coach and to receive coaching, in my experience, because it comes from the foundation that everyone has infinite potential, like, and they know and have everything that they need in their life within themselves. They have the time, the resources, the talent, the answers. If they're confused, I was a confused person, like I had no idea what to do. The answers were there, it just wasn't clear. And we're having a slow down conversation with another person where the primary focus is you and your life. There's so much clarity and um, insights that you can gain, and just that shift itself can change your life. Like, even without the actions, of course, are like I guess the important difference, like you said, about from life coaching is more forward thinking. What do you want for your life? How do you want to move forward? What actions? And therapy is more like, how was your past, your childhood, and all of that. That's the primary difference. But with the actions and the insights is just, I still remember the first insight I had when you coached me 2 or 3 years ago. It was what I'm doing in my life is what I'm expected to do, and not what I truly want to do. And no wonder I'm unhappy and miserable. And then there it was like, I want to change that. Let's change that. And that's all I did. Even till today, I ask myself the question, is this something that I want, or is it something expected of me? So that is just as an example, personal example of a powerful insight that can come from a coaching session where it, you just don't see it, and a professional helps you see it. And then just everything seems different, even though nothing has actually changed. Everything seems different. You look at it differently, and now you're already like acting as if that's true, and you're just like, okay, I'm going to change that. It becomes automatic. The change in your life becomes automatic once you have that insight. Uh, just to share that other thing. This was wonderful, Dylan. I had a like really lovely conversation. Getting to know, I actually learned a little bit more about you, and um, a little more about your journey, and also your experience of like what is life coaching, who is this for, and also a little bit about what does someone do if they want to do something else. Um, who should do it, and all those three factors you talked about. Yeah, I didn't think of it that way, but I think that might be helpful for someone considering it. Risk tolerance being a really important one, and the pain point. How painful is it for you to stay here versus change something and move forward? Thank you so much. Had a really great conversation, and maybe we'll have you again sometime in this podcast to talk about more stuff. I feel like we have
Happy
a
to do it.
million things to talk about.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure. I can't wait to see your 50th episode. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Dylan. Bye-bye, everyone.